Benjamin Garcia from the Locked On Podcast Network covering Arizona Cardinals. I also do a little bit of Phoenix Suns work, but not to mention host of the Ben Garcia Show. Shameless plug there. Here with my guy, Greg Cosell, a million years over at NFL Films. If you want to get smarter about football, you talk to this guy. And the first thing I said to him is I said, hey, I would love to just get a few minutes to hear your thoughts on Kyler Murray. And immediately you were like, man, he's a really tough player to analyze. What makes him so tough?
Well, he's gifted. I mean, that's the thing you started with. He's gifted. He's got a good arm, not a great arm. He's got a good arm. He's obviously extremely mobile. I mean, he's so quick-footed. Because he's always been short, he's kind of mastered the ability to throw off balance, falling away, because he's had to. Because there are times that the bodies come around him, and he's short. So he's always had to master that ability. But I always come away from watching Kyler as if feeling that there's more there, and I just don't know if it's going to come out. He can be great, and then there's other times I feel like he's just leaving things on the field. So he's always been one of my most difficult evaluations, and he's always been hard for me, and I'm just being honest about it.
Yeah. No, I think the honesty is what we need. I'm getting smarter just hearing you talk about it. Let's frame it like this. What do you think is the best thing he does well? Is it moving? And then what do you think is the worst thing? Because the consistency is what really goes up and down with Kyler. Yeah. It seems like in the second half of the season, he just takes a nosedive. What are some of his strengths that you know translate to the NFL? What are some things that don't?
Yeah, I mean, with quarterbacks who are shorter, I always feel like the number one thing that you want to do offensively is really get them into a timing rhythm pass game where they can hit their back foot and the ball can come out.
Yeah.
Because he's shorter, if he starts feeling bodies getting closer to him, he's going to leave the pocket. And it's a very fine line with quarterbacks that can make plays with their legs, which obviously at times can be phenomenal, or even make throws. I mean, you go back, I think back to the first Rams game this year. It was either week 2 or week 3, I can't remember. But he made unbelievable throws outside of structure. And you come away from those games and people think, oh my God, Kyler Murray is great. But it's so hard to live like that week in and week out.
Yeah.
He can do that.
Yeah.
And there'll be times he does that, and it's really special. But it's so hard to feel like that is a foundation of an offense, making plays improvisationally or above the X's and O's, as people say. I just feel like playing within the structure of the offense that sometimes it's really good and other times it's not. And I don't know the answer to that because I'd have to be involved in the whole process with the coaching staff. But I just think, I hate to use the word inconsistent because you want to define what that means about a given player, but it just doesn't happen often enough.
Yeah. So Kyler, oftentimes it's consistency, that kind of word you just said a second ago. He takes a nosedive in the second half of seasons. And someone like myself, I blame Cliff Kingsbury for that. I made a lot of rounds on social media doing that. It clearly wasn't Cliff. It's a Kyler issue. What would you say is the number one thing that maybe you've seen that it's just not translating the second half of seasons?
That's a hard question. I don't have a specific answer to that.
Yeah.
It's so much has to do with the coaching staff and the relationship with the quarterback. And it's no knock on the coaching staff. I never knock coaching staffs because you'd have to be there every day to know that. And it's easy from 30,000 feet to say, oh, it's bad this, it's bad that. I never do that because, like I said, you'd have to be involved in the entire process. So I don't really have a good answer for why in the second half of this season things seem to go a little bit south. But, he's a talented kid. I think they've got pretty good weapons. I think one of the main goals this offseason, whether it's a coaching issue, whether it's a Kyler issue, is how to get Marvin Harrison involved in this offense as a number one receiver. I mean, obviously McBride was his guy, and that's great. No knock on McBride. But I think you've got to get the wide receivers, starting with Harrison, even Wilson. I really like him a lot too. You've got to get, there's got to be more. And again, I hate to use the word consistent, but you don't feel like on a week-to-week basis that those receivers are really going to be factors in the pass game.
Yeah, you talk about Kyler Murray. Everyone that I've talked to, Kevin Clark, Nick Wright, guys in the local media, no one, Dan Orlowski, they can't quit Kyler. Would you say Kyler is going to be, can be, or will be the foundational piece for this Cardinals for years to come as their franchise quarterback? Or are you leaning towards you're probably more on the outside?
Well, again, that's a hard question. He's been in the league how many years now?
6. Next year will be year 7.
Yeah, he's played a lot of games. So at some point, and again, it's the third year coming up for this coaching staff, right?
Yeah.
Third year, okay. I mean, this to me becomes kind of a defining year with this staff. And with the fact that Harrison will be a second-year player, Wilson a third-year player. To me, it's kind of, and they re-signed Connor, who I really like a lot.
Yeah.
So to me, this becomes a defining year. If you sort of see the same thing, then you have to feel that this is what he is.
Yeah.
And then it becomes an organizational decision, and then you got to decide. What the thing that people forget is there's not a quarterback store where you just go all of a sudden go get another quarterback. Quarterbacks don't just fall from the sky. So everybody, with teams think, oh, let's get another quarterback. Well, that's not so easy. So, he can play in the league. Mm-hmm. So, and then people say, well, can you win a Super Bowl? Well, again, who knows the answer to that question.
Well, Greg Cosell, when he was telling me over there, I had to really urge him on to be here. And because he wasn't sure, listen, if this is the little you know about Kyler, I would like to know your expertise on things. Wow. Because we got smarter just listening to you. Like I told you we would. Greg Cosell, NFL Films, Benjamin Garcia, Locked On Podcast Network, host of The Ben Garcia Show. Greg, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.